I never dreamt of being a judge as a young person. It never occurred to me that I could ever reach such a high echelon of society. Because I come from Northern Ireland and I'm a member of the minority group in Northern Ireland, I was always very aware as a child on how easy it is to oppress people by use of bureaucracy, by misinforming them. And it used to annoy me even as a child because I saw the effect it had on my family. I also was a bit annoyed that girls were expected to work harder than boys. And I was the eldest, so those two things led me into more what we now call human rights or gender issues. I became a lawyer after working for some years. I used to do quite a lot of defense work. I got married unexpectedly, in as much as that I also married across a person that wasn't acceptable in Northern Ireland. He was a different religion to me. And we went to Papua New Guinea. He was working there. I started working as the public defense. I saw how badly treated women were. I did a lot of cases involving women. I also saw how misused customary practices were, and that made me very aware of the conflicts between custom and particularly international human rights and constitutional. So I continued doing a lot of legal aid, even though I was a government lawyer, but I was permitted to do it. I did particular cases, for example, to do with women prisoners, squatters. Those were the ones I was well known for. I learned too that people's rights in prison were totally neglected, often by bureaucratic mistakes, failure to file documents properly from the magistrate to the higher court. If those documents weren't filed, the person just sat in prison for years. So I became very conscious of the need to check basic administration. I could even give you an example. One night, very late, I was actually in bed. I'd had a touch of malaria. Some people came to my gate saying that there was a girl in the police cells with her baby, and the baby was sick. She'd been charged with assault. They went and paid the bail money for her, but the police still would not release her. And would I go down to the police station and do something about it? And because they kept saying how sick the baby was, my husband drove me to the town. And I could hear the baby screaming even before we got to the police station. They had allowed her out of the cells, and I could see the child was not going to survive if we didn't get her out. I asked the police officer, has she been charged with something? And he said, yes, she'd been charged with assault. She had hit her husband's other girlfriend, which is a common situation there. And I asked if she'd been granted bail, and he said, yes. Has it been paid? Yes. Well, why is she not being released? And he said, we've run out of bail forms. I don't have the form to fill out. So she sat there. So I had to sit down at the police station and write out the wording for a bail form from the back of the legislation. And that was an example of a simple lack of thinking, and it was bureaucracy rather than deliberate decision to hold her illegally. I was asked to be considered as, first of all, I was made a principal magistrate. I was the first woman principal magistrate in Papua New Guinea. It is like a district court judge here. And the area that I was responsible for would be much bigger than the Netherlands.
Okay.
I was in that position for a year, and the duties of a magistrate included doing prison inspections. And the more I did, the more I became aware of the abuse of human rights by failure to follow proper procedures. After being in that position for a year, I was asked would I be considered as a judge? My name had been put forward by the Chief Justice on 3 different occasions. But because I was a female, and they never had a female judge, and many of the other members of the commission said that a woman's place was not on the bench, it was in the home, it was refused, purely because I was a woman. That would have been 1987 in Papua New Guinea. However, they did appoint me in 1988 for 1 year as a trial run. They didn't trust women. That appointment was then confirmed. I was also then a member of the Supreme Court, and I was in that position then for about 10 years. During that time, I did court circuits to every province in Papua New Guinea except 1. On each of those occasions, I would go out to the local prison and check the records and check the conditions of the prisoners. That was a very active thing then. I encouraged other judges to do. And eventually that went as a practice in not just in Papua New Guinea, but it was promoted in some other Commonwealth countries because of through the Commonwealth judges and magistrates meetings. So that was one aspect of human rights. And also I was very aware of women's rights and, again, custom and how oppressive custom is to women. And I used international human rights treaties and the Constitution to get round those customs.
Thank you.
Oh, and I should say I also came back. So that's how I became a judge. And then, because of my background, the United Nations appointed me to the international. First of all, the Commonwealth asked me to go to Sierra Leone after the war to help mentoring in the Sierra Leone Judiciary. And after that, the United Nations appointed me to the Special Court. The position had been advertised in the United Kingdom. I was told there were 200 candidates applied, and I was then nominated following interviews by the United Kingdom government. Because I'm from Northern Ireland, I have dual nationality. So there was not a nomination procedure as such in the Special Court, but that was how I became put forward by the United Kingdom government. And the United Nations interviewed me again and accepted and appointed me.